So yeah, what's happening? Thought I'd just do a video of me favourite albums of 2024. I know this is getting a bit late now, but I thought better put it out before I put it off anymore. So yeah, coming at number 40, Diary of a Hustler, an independent EP from the Memphis rapper K Carbon, who once again delivers a set of catchy trap songs. A sultry voice and accent makes her bars really land. I don't think anyone else out this ready. You can hear she's putting it all into them raps, and there's a posse cut on there that's got the rest of the girls from Memphis, and I think that's all when they're at the best, to be honest. 39, Across the Tracks by Boldy James. Some buttery smooth instrumentals from Conductor Williams too, and Baldy just gives his usual nonchalant delivery over some typical Conductor vocal loops. And then at number 39 we've got Myth Who Never Quit 2, just one of the many projects the Dump God or 100 Tape Legends, aka the God Fahim, has put out this year. I think Myth 2 has his best beat selection. Nicholas Craven's signature sample heavy sound is in full effect on this album. But yeah, just to put it in perspective, I think he's put about like 4 albums out with Nicholas Craven just in 24. So yeah, number 37, Whiplash by BOA, who haven't dropped in almost 20 years. I can only assume this is due to how popular Twilight's been on stuff like TikTok. I know a lot of the songs on there have really picked up in recent years, so somehow they haven't missed a step and still just as good as they ever were, and just dropped another alt-rock classic. Then at number 36 we've got To Tame a Dead Horse by Lee Scott, who once again has done all his own production. This project was physical only, so it's not on streaming. There's just a few singles that got put out. It plays with a lot of themes of sci-fi and like mind control and things, and it comes out having this sort of dystopian sort of mood. It's literally one of the most anti-radio albums I've probably heard this year. So yeah, I think the whole thing come together quite nicely. 35, Death a Deuce. So this is the sophomore album by Love the Genius out of Conway's Drumwork Music, joined by a lot of the Griselda alumni like Camouflage Monk, Taraneh and Keisha Plum. I think the best feature's got to be Papoose on Triangle. Overall, very consistent album. It reminds me a lot of old Rhapsody. Then 34, we've got The Eternal Now. Raz, Fresco and DJ Muggs team up for a joint project, which is pretty lo-fi and laid back, to be honest. Lots of warm, earthly samples and drums. 33, Macaroni. Cook and Soul provides a very soulful backdrop to what is probably the Mussolini's most polished project of the year, being quite relaxed in nature. Mussolini's voice comes through well on these jazzy loops. Typical doom Adult Swim sound, narrated by Moose's sex addiction confessions. He's a real menace. The musical equivalent of the Mach. 32. This Is How Tomorrow Moves. So this is the third studio album by Bieber Doomy, where she reaches out more into self-reflection and acceptance. Her writing's definitely matured over the last couple of years, and Rick Rubin joins her for this album for some pretty good, if not safe in some parts, production for what makes like a decent album overall. 31, Marciology by Rock Marciano. Solid beats and raps the whole way through. He produced most of these tracks except for 3, which were done 2 by The Alchemist and 1 by Animos. So yeah, what you'd come to expect from the Godfather of the New Wave. Just pretty good album. Number 30, Be Double Clip Tight by Vic Spencer. Vic Spencer, hailing from Chicago, has got to be, along with Chris Crackers, the funniest rappers out. This album's extremely unorthodox. The beats are quite experimental, incorporating all sorts of weird sounds. Near the tail end of the album, there's a posse cut with Skunks, Rashid, Chapel, Reef Hustle, Rome Streets, Silent Snipers and the Mussolini, which makes the album worth a listen on its own. 29, Glorious by Glorilla. She started off the year pretty strong with Everything mixtape, but Glorious just had better production at a much higher budget overall. Probably the best project out of Memphis in the last couple of years that I can think of. It didn't necessarily have the heights of something like Renegade, but I think overall it's a much better polished album. 28, Super Shredder. Mickey Diamond teams up with Ral Duke once again for another Doom-inspired album, this time lending the cover from the Hoe Cakes 12-inch. It's just over double the length of Oruko Saki and leaning in heavily into the Adult Swim sound. Cartoons incorporates Wile E. Coyote sound effects and a lot of references to Hanna-Barbera and like Mac Groening and stuff all over the project. Detroit native Mickey Diamond takes on the persona of Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. His sincerity sells it, and it ends up being quite funny in parts. Stuff like I think Shredder Loves April is another standout off the album. Just a lot of references and stuff if you're into the Ninja Turtles. 27, The Drive Home from Samara Sim, which by the looks of it seems to be a debut EP. It reminds me a lot of the artists that were blown up in the early 2010s, maybe like Steve Lacy, Kendrick or Mac Miller or something. It's a bit short, but hopefully she follows it up because I can hear a lot of potential on this just short project. Then at 26 we've got The Lotus Child by Chinouriri, who I can say with full certainty is the most underrated rapper out right now. This album feels like a celebration of all the work she's put in over the last couple of years because of things like track 2, Black Girl, with Rhapsody. That's got to be my favourite song, and it's such a great feature for her to get. They really leave you no room to breathe on that track. It's just wall-to-wall bars, but overall, outstanding album. 25, Hatton Garden Hold Up. Rome Street and Taraneh finally team up and it was worth the wait. The theme of this project being inspired by a real life heist done in Hatton Garden in 2015, performed by a group of old school criminals who were estimated to have got like 14 million from safety deposit boxes. But yeah, Rome's been in rare form now for the last couple of years, since what I can see, 96 Naughty seems to where he's really popped off, and he just hasn't really slowed down, has he? I've been trying to keep up with him ever since, and pretty much every project's just been better and better. I'm amazed he's still able to maintain this level of quality. But yeah, just your typical 5% of lingo, a few cool features sprinkled in. 24, Lavender by Heems. So Heems is a Queens rapper from the early 2010s who hadn't put out a record in a while, but he came back this year with Lapgan. If you've ever wondered what Indian rap would sound like, a lot of Eastern instrumentals make this project stand out. The album's filled with some of the craziest features you'll see this year, from Lee Scott to Sonny Jim, Your Old Droog, Kool Keith, Blue, and some fucking how we got Cool Calm Pete, who literally nobody has seen since about 2006. But yeah, he managed to get all these crazy features on this album and just came out sounding crazy. So if you're ever wondering what maybe an Eastern or Asian sounding boom bap rap album would sound like, this is the album for you. Then at 23 we've got Metal 2, the sequel to an album by Lil Super, 3M5 and Nietzsche's One. Lil Super, I've got to say, is pretty much in his own category in Latin America, where Casabanero is the best that the genre's ever seen, and this just adds to his catalogue. The name Metal's quite fitting actually, because a lot of the beats sound like hard rock at certain parts, along with your standard Griselda, eerie, horrorcore type beats. Really sounds like a whole different world in some of them countries, with the levels of like corruption and cartel taking over things. It's just scary as fuck, very interesting album. Then at number 22 we've got Still Praying. So this will be the third in the Pray For trilogy, or tetralogy if you want to count Pray For Haiti too, I guess. Joined by DJ Drama for some of his best beat selections since HWH8 maybe. We got a first glimpse at brother Tom SOS, who's the newest Griselda member, and he's sort of like Stove in the way he has his own sort of style already like mapped out. He can even sing. And then once again, Rome Street never disappoints on his feature on Underground King, which is a very fitting title for a song for him to be on. He says, "My grandma always had faith that I'd be big," accompanied by what sounds like glistening jewels in the background. Overall, yeah, I like the low feature count. You rarely see that with Westside nowadays. I know he likes to work with a lot of people, and that's what a lot of us love him for, but this felt like a throwback to something like Hitler 2 or something like that, where he's just a bit more stripped back on his own. 21, Imaginal Disc by Magna LaBey. The old pop duo from California are back for the second album, continuing their synth pop mixed with Y2K aesthetic. They play with a lot of funky grooves throughout the album, the general themes of technology and such. They build to these huge crescendos, like in the track Death and Romance, which is like 8 minutes long, and I think this is where they're at some of the best. It sort of reminds me of some of the best video game music. It has this very cinematic quality to it. But yeah, pretty decent album. Then at number 20 we've got the Cream Tape. So this is Buffalo's own Billie Essco teaming up with Six Letter from Toronto, and it's produced by Raz Fresco, who also features on 3 of the tracks for a fashion-inspired project, with the cover done by Harvey Dentist, who's really been on a run this year. He also done the Eternal Now. But yeah, this one in particular I think just really stands out. The cover, inspired by like Totoro and Godzilla, I'm guessing. But the production again on this one's extremely experimental. It troubles me how did they even manage to rap over some of these messy beats, but yeah, it's just great overall. 19, Lively Premonition by Jordana. She drops another short project filled with folk goodness, very hush and understated. Her ever-evolving style is just cool to like watch play out at this point. Feels like very personal, like this could have come out any decade. It's very reminiscent Margot Grime. Then at 18, Baggies. This is the debut EP by Fcukers. is that how you say that? Which from what I can see is made up of 2 DJs and a singer. This EP is a bit messy overall, but some tracks really stand out. There's lots of electronic beats and it reminds me a lot of old rave culture. I feel like that's what inspired this stuff like Happy Mondays. While he can come across a little bit annoying, and nevertheless enjoyed this like project overall. I thought it was very good sonically. 17 by Faery Baby, the Lucky Star EP. He seems to be inspired a lot by bands like Joy Division and stuff from the late 70s, early 80s. She has a very similar cool monotone voice and that post-punk bass with a lot of like distortion in parts and light synths throughout. But yeah, it's a great skateboarding playlist, just full of them dusty rammers. Just not a single miss overall. Great EP. I'd love to see what a full album would look like. And then at 16 we've got El Leon, so by Crimeapple. He once again proves why he's a top 5 rapper with another flawless project. Crime seamlessly can switch between language while he raps, which makes him all the more mesmerising. The piano and drums on this album especially, and the horns, just give it this warm fuzzy feeling. All the production was done by The Preservation. He really gives it that larger-than-life film soundtrack feel. It feels like Crime's accompanied by an orchestra or something, which really makes it all the more funny when he's delivering the lines like, "You actually ate me ass out the first time we fucked, that was wild." The Latin samples and unusual instrumentals make it sound foreign, a lot realer and more authentic than a lot of the abundance of boom bap currently flooding the underground. So yeah, overall, very unique album. 15, Intros, the mixtape by Kaeto, an old pop act from Scotland, who really showed their range in the short set of tracks. Absolutely like phenomenal production throughout, a bit quicker and dancier than your usual pop. The drums especially are good, and the song Kiss Me is probably my favourite off the mixtape. It can really be played in any setting and has like a great crescendo and then a little epilogue at the end. So yeah, now we're into pretty much albums that I think are like near perfect ratings. 14, Supergoat by Hus Kingpin and produced by Ninth Wonder. So Ninth Wonder continues his great run of collaboration albums, this time with Hampstead's Hus Kingpin, who is very similar to Rock in both style and content, who's also obviously from Hampstead. I think what makes Hus stand out is he'll rap about literally the most random things, shit like walking backwards, echoes in the rain. He just paints like these vivid pictures, and the two made just the perfect match for this collab album. And that's why I've rated it the highest of all the collab projects on this list. The song Friends has just got this haunting feel with like girls laughing in the background and this pulsing beat, and it just gives off this very existential mood like you're floating through space or something. 13, Submarine. So this is the second studio album from the indie pop band The Marias. More well crafted, funky, bassy tunes, a bit like Men I Trust, Tame Impala or D'Angelo. They shift to Spanish in certain parts, and they have a very dense, multi-layered sound. It can be a bit subdued and slow in parts, so it mightn't be for everyone, and it's a little bit darker than the previous work, but overall I think it's a great follow-up. Here in the Pitch. So this is the 4th studio album by Jessica Pratt, who maybe has the most unique voice in folk. This project's no different, and it's definitely some of her best work here. The lyrics especially are outstanding on this project. On Empress You'll Never Know she says, "I was never what they called me in the dark." Just some of the most subtly sublime singing. It's rather close, like she's close to the mic, and the track has this like backmasking and ambience. It just gives this very illusionary effect. Then number 11, Silence is Loud by Nia Archives. So she's an artist from Salford, Manchester, who's played a huge part in reviving jungle and garage. The album actually scored her the first Mercury Prize nomination for a jungle artist in over 26 years. Her production is unique and chaotic as always, with relentless drums and a fresh new take on like rave music. Her voice is similar in style to Amy Winehouse, quite contralto and very expressive, and natural timing and phrasing melds to the instrumentals. So yeah, at number 10 we've got Rich Ass Haitian by Mach-Hommy, who's provided us with maybe his best project since Pray for Haiti. Overall, the production on this album is ridiculous. Song after song of thick, dirty beats, and Mark's rapping his ass off too. His style almost seems effortless, the way he talks, literally how he raps. He gives off that Mos Def energy all over this project, and with his Pandora's box of flows, references and punchlines, Mark's just continuing to show us that he is that fella. Number 9, Girl, the sophomore album by Coco and Clair Clair, which are an Atlanta-based pop duo, this time being on the shorter side, clocking in at around 24 minutes. Lots of dreamy bedroom pop beats with very bratty lyrics. The production seems a bit more refined, leaving room for these airy vocals and endless one-liners. Great album. Number 8, Charm. So this is the third album by Clairo, which is just another bundle of fresh set of introspective songs of longing. Throughout, there's just soft rock and soulful grooves that keep it warm and have this autumn feeling, which is quite fitting to her voice. I believe the cover's a reference to Patti Smith's Easter. Number 7, Elite Vessel, which is the debut album by Lexa, a rapper and singer from Queens. She actually locked herself in a room for 10 hours in Union Square to promote this album. The songs are very captivating, with a lot of strong emotion and personality on them. Sweet Time had some great saxophone melodies for what came together as a very layered sound. For the first album I thought it was quite strong. Number 6, Alligator Bites Never Heal. So this is the third mixtape by Diechii of Top Dog, who's blew up this year from everything from a Camp Floggenar appearance to featuring on Chromacopia. But this honestly feels like more of an album than a mixtape, at least where the quality is concerned. It's just very raw and relatable. This has a very classic boom bap sound, but also some more bouncier beats thrown in, with a bit of trap mixed into. Diechii's endearingly aggressive flows carry most of the album. Denial is a River is probably my favourite song, taking its title from the Wendy Williams quote.
What did your husband do that made you uncomfortable?
Wendy, he went down.
Down where?
Other guy.
Lucy, stop it! Denial is a river in Egypt. Your husband is gay.
In the song, Diechii plays herself and a doctor in a therapy session. A performance really sells it too. Number 5, Perfect Answer. So this is from the collective personality, whatever you want to call it, Evanora Unlimited, who drops another industrial post-punk album. Cult-like chants and fuzzy guitars fill out the soundscapes of this thing. It's like a film rather than a collection of songs, the way it all flows in together, especially with some of the samples you used. It's extremely layered. Symptoms of Amnesia uses nuclear sirens, and it can be quite overwhelming on first listen, while also having songs like Sequela Tide, which sounds like straight 90s Slav punk shoegaze. I also find it pretty impressive his ability to switch up from singing to rapping, and his quick raps and the many flows that he has. But yeah, very chaotic, may even fall somewhere into noise music, and it gets right into it straight away. So if you have a short attention span, this is a pretty decent album, pretty quick, upbeat album. Number 4, Prelude to Ecstasy. So this is another debut album, this time by the British band The Last Dinner Party. There's a theatrical quality to a lot of the songs. These are definitely Shakespeare kids mixed with a bit of glam rock for what comes together as some of the best songwriting of the year. Just for example, off the first track, Burned Alive, Let Me Turn My Grief Into a Commodity, which I thought was a standout, and another, Candle Wax Melting in My Veins, So I Keep Standing in Your Flames. You don't usually see this level of introspection and self-awareness from a new artist. From the infectious confidence on tracks like Caesar on a TV screen to the heartbreaking Beautiful Boy, they really show the range on this album. So number 3, Brat by Charli XCX. So most of you would have probably expected me to put this at number 1, but here we are. What is there to say about Brat? As predicted by yours truly, the album went on to be pretty much the album of 2024, at least as far as the internet's concerned. From the marketing to the rollout to the features and memes, this album literally did everything. Going back to her club roots, it seems as though Charli's finally clicked with the mainstream. This album hones in on more of the party vroom vroom type of Charli. I see a lot of similarities to XCX World, at least on what the assignment was. While XCX World was a bit more on the C-core side, this lands somewhere maybe more towards 90s rave and dance, but both obviously share that same glitched out Y2K electronic aesthetic that Charli's known for. I'd like to also include the remix album on this list because I pretty much classed them as one album. Both albums are in the remix album too, aren't they? So I'll just count them as one. I think Charli said in an interview about the songs, they can be broken down and rearranged in almost limitless ways. The songs lend themselves to lots of iteration and many interpretations. Many have been drastically altered in the remixes, both in length and tone. Obviously, club music lends itself to endless remixing, so it's just the perfect match. We also get the benefit of both worlds, where we get a featureless album and then also a completely featured album. And not to mention the fucking First Lord feature since 2015. But yeah, all of that all came together to make what is an absolute classic and probably one of the best albums ever. Then we're getting on to number 2. What a devastating turn of events. So this is by Rachel Chinouriri, who's a singer and songwriter from Kingston upon Thames, who became popular from a song My Darling that came out in 2022, and it's on this album. The song's an intimate acoustic masterpiece, which is absolutely crushing to listen to. What I'd say this album done better than any other album on this list is that it had a lot of heart. I think that can be overlooked, especially nowadays.
How can a painting have a soul?
It has a soul because it has an identity. It has a heart. The memory of this painting will survive beyond this moment. It will linger in your mind, become part of the tapestry of your subconscious. It has made a lasting impression on you, and you're not quite sure why.
The tracks are real anecdotes and you sort of hear the emotion. It's a testament that she can turn it round into something magic. It might be the most British album on this list too, so there's that too. I got a chance to go and see it actually the day before the album came out, and I think it was like the 2nd of March. Couldn't recommend it enough. Then at number 1 we've got New Age Prayer. So this is by Taraneh, who's a Midwestern artist based in New York with Iranian heritage. So that melting pot alone should tell you that the sounds you're in for on this album. Her name means melody or song in Iranian. Her genres fluctuate from grunge to goth rock, lo-fi, dream pop to industrial and experimental electronic compositions. Both her production and her vocal style is very layered, unlike anything I can really remember hearing lately. It's sort of more like a drug than an album, in the way it's been meticulously crafted to create one fluid experience that flows as one. At no point were they sat there going, should we just make a song for the sake of it? It's like Boards of Canada or Muslim Gaze, in that it was fully intended to be consumed as one. It's clearly inspired by things like worship, chants, religion, with a haunting back and vocal that often muddies the track. There's just a lot of depth and character in the instrumentation. There's a lot of catchy guitar and the drums are particularly good. I think what I keep coming back to this album for was its ability to blend so many genres. Like I mentioned with Perfect Answer, which obviously that was done by Evanora Unlimited, who features on this, but both are similar in their abilities to just craft different sounds. But yeah, can't recommend that album enough. Just haven't heard absolutely no one speak about it. Yeah, if you're gonna go and check out any, probably check out some of these top tenors. If you have any that I've left off this list, be sure to let me know, because I'm sure there's quite a few. I know I forgot to add Tyler's album on here that probably would have slotted in somewhere around the bottom, and I'm certain there's a few more that I'm forgetting, so I'll leave them in the description. This started out as a review of the albums for the month of October, but I sort of decided to turn it into a full year's list. So yeah, just before I go, I'd like to just mention a few singles by artists that haven't got albums out this year. So the Girl Code had an amazing freestyle, as per loads of quotables, and then Suzy Clue dropped a second single, Holy Touch, which is, if you're into a bit of shoegaze, give that a go. Oh, and there's an album that I did certainly forget to mention that I probably would have put in my top 10, and that is Baby I'm the Wolf by Ha Vay, which seems to be a San Franciscan songwriter whose very push, understated album caught me off guard this year with its very DIY aesthetic. It's extremely endearing. The songs are both simple and effective, and it's a very light, spring feeling album, and she's got a very angelic delivery. If you're into that sort of bedroom prop with a bit of a whimsical quality to it, you'll probably like this. So yeah, I probably would have put that at number 8 if I'd remembered it, to be honest. But yeah, I'll have to stop here because I'll literally just keep remembering more music forever. But yeah, try and keep the list a bit shorter next year maybe. In a bit.